It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
Well, good morning. We're here live in Buckhead overlooking this billion-dollar view this morning, and I think we have a Chamber of Commerce day. The trees are coming out, and we're pretty well, we can hardly see all the ground anymore from our building looking over the city. This morning we have a special treat. Rich Casanova's here, Michael Moore's here, and we've got Brian Thompson, who serves to help with a program here that you're going to get excited about because Brian works with kids, and this morning we've got some of his own youth here in the studio, and I tell you what, this guy comes with his own entourage. He's got cameras, he's got audio, he's got everything just to be on the radio, and he even has a face for it today. So we're going to stack him up here, and we're going to get Brian Thompson from CorporateKid. And this is an interesting program which has started here in the city a few years ago, and there's some very, very, very neat history. And I've known Brian through some media connections from before, and he's been a tremendous contributor to the city. And well, he has a story of his own, which would just could take a whole lot more than a half-hour show. But today we're going to focus on CorporateKid. So, Brian, give us a brief overview of kind of what CorporateKid is, and then we'll talk about how you got there and why it's so important. We're brought to you this morning by the Buckhead Business Association. This show is co-sponsored by them, and it's designed to put the businesses in front of folks. But today we're going to be talking about the things a business can do for folks.
It's interesting as I was listening to you say that. Is last week we had a spotlight on the Young Bucks, the Buckhead Business Association. So this is the edition called the Younger Bucks, I guess, right?
Bucks. These are helping the high school kids get to where they need to be so they can be part of our business community. Yeah. So, Brian, give us a little bit of scenario of what on earth is CorporateKid first.
Well, CorporateKid is an organization that I built and designed starting about almost 3 years ago. As you know, Michael, because we've known each other for about that amount of time. It takes kids who are exceptional students that live in challenged neighborhoods, environmentally at-risk neighborhoods here in Atlanta. We take those kids because you have to understand that they do very well in school, but they don't have the avenues of success built into those neighborhoods. We take those kids and we put them in areas where those avenues can be achieved. We put those children in offices of high-ranking CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, the C-suite generally. For a year-long program where they go to the offices and they're mentored, and it's almost like an internship. So we call it mentorship.
A new word there.
Yeah. We're copywriting that.
It's Wikipedia.
Yeah. He looks at me as I'm going to my GoDaddy page. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You just got that the domain and the .com, .info, .everything, right, Rich?
What I like about this is not a concept or a theory. It's the premise, but to rewind. So you were that kid, a challenged kid in Philly, growing up during the '80s, right? Talk to us a little about that backstory.
Yeah, so growing up in the '80s, when I turned 13 is when crack started hitting the inner cities and totally devastating the infrastructure in terms of people infrastructure of inner cities. And as a 13-year-old, you're faced with 13, 14, 15, you're faced with challenges that a lot of people don't understand. And as a student, I was a fairly bright student. But when you're 13, 14, 15, your family doesn't have any money, and the person in your neighborhood is successful. Is a local drug dealer, and in my neighborhood, I had the number one drug dealer in the state of
Congratulations
Pennsylvania.
On that, yeah.
So he was trending high.
King, yeah, right.
And my neighbor Aaron Jones, this guy he ran was called the Junior Black Mafia, and he's running a $2 million a month business. $2-3 million a month. Yeah, a month, living in the hood, and so he had all the trappings. He had multiple vehicles. When you're 15, 16 years old, he had girls, he had all the clothes, and here you are with the complete opposite of that, none of that. Yep. And the danger to that is that, as a fairly intelligent kid, I knew my avenue of success were probably limited, especially in the early 80s, because, the demographic that I fit, the neighborhood that I come from, the school that I go to, there were not a lot of opportunities in my mind to excel. And I didn't know anybody in my family that was a CEO or a doctor or a lawyer. They just didn't exist. So you gravitate towards that. And I fought it very hard. It was as everybody in my neighborhood became drug dealers. Everybody went from Robert, the kid that I know really well, to Robert, the guy who's got a gun, who's making, $50,000-$60,000 a week, and he's driving a brand new Maxim and he's 16.
So that's something that you did a good job by fighting that process, because everybody doesn't need to emulate that, because there is some termination notices that come down the road to those folks.
Well, I didn't really fight it. That's the thing. I mean, I fought it, but it wasn't a winning fight. I stayed going against it for a number of years, but it wears you down. And me and a friend of mine, we got into it, and it was before we could finish our first drug deal. He saved us. He's a good friend of mine, my best friend, younger than me. He's a follower. I was a leader, but he led in this one instance, and he made the statement to me, what's going to happen when we get caught? He didn't say if, he said when we get caught. And we have to be walked down our steps, and our mother and our grandmothers are behind us screaming. And the moment he said that, it was like a flash. Immediately. We had purchased a lot of material and spent a lot of money. And I told him to give it back to his cousin. We're not gonna do this.
Or when your mother and grandmother's at your funeral, right?
Yeah,
probably saw a lot of that.
Yeah, so it was him. It wasn't me. And I always say, it's a great story. I wouldn't be here if he had not done that.
Right. But one person will make a difference in your life. Now I know you started this project, but there's another backstory too that goes along with a I guess it's a fiction story, but it's partially true. The original book, or the idea, CorporateKid, comes from right here in Atlanta. And it's quite a few years back down the road. And if you will, share some of that, because the concept and the idea of having people reach back, reach up, and reach out is really what the basis of your program is all about, right?
It's all about paying it forward. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for people like you, Michael. And the day I met you is the same day I met a gentleman named Bob Littell, and who told me about a doctor named Neil Schulman. And I went to meet Neil Schulman, and I went to meet him for other purposes of a business I was trying to start, and he commandeered me, made me read his book, CorporateKid, before I met him. So I read the book and was fascinated by the book, and the book is what inspired me to do this. Just to rewind a little bit, Michael Moore introduced me to Bob Littell to show you how this works. And I didn't know Michael Moore for 5 minutes, because another gentleman introduced me to Michael Moore. So Michael introduced me to Bob. Bob introduced me to Neil. Neil introduced me to the book, and the book was about a child from inner city Atlanta who just a mother and a grandmother, and it's fiction, but there's some fact in it now. He was introduced through an accident to an executive, and that executive brought him in, and his life was forever changed from that connection. And when I read that, and when I was done, I visited Michael. I mean, not Michael, but Neil, and I said, Neil, you're trying to make a movie out of this book, but why don't you just do what the book does? Why don't you just create an organization that just pairs kids up with executives? I mean, it's so simple. No one's done it, which is weirdly strange. Yeah. Not, everybody has a lot of red tape and a lot of steps to do. I just said, well, why don't you take a kid, an executive, and put them in the same room? And he said, well, I'm kind of old. Why don't you do it? And I looked at him like he was crazy. I was like, this is your book. It's your idea. I'm just kind of throwing this in you, throwing you a softball here. Do it. And he was like, you do it. And we were in the living room going, you do it, you do it.
No, it's you, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, why can't you do it? And I was trying my best to find a reason not to do it. Like, I can't do this, and I couldn't think of a reason. I mean, I couldn't. And I'm a pretty quick guy, and I couldn't think of anything. And so I said, okay, all right, I'm going to do it.
Now, so you got this thing started, and you and Neil encouraged each other to figure it out. I'm sure he's been an asset along the way, but you've been able to find some phenomenal assets right here in the city, because you have prototyped this thing to a point where it is real. It is done. I mean, I shared space with, I guess, 20 of your kids, and then they were quite impressive little group of folks. So, you might want to share a little success story, but talk about how you've been getting the support you've been garnering, and I guess talk us about what the next launching point for you is. I know.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of opportunities.
Well, again, this is really about paying it forward. It's about my brother's keeper, and that just continues to go. So initially, I tried to get schools, because to make this work, you need the help of schools, business people, children. You need that trifecta. I couldn't get schools because I had no credibility. couldn't get business people because I didn't have schools, not even credibility. Kids were there, but they couldn't get the kids because I didn't have the other two. And so I approached a few schools. They loved the idea. The idea worked. It's fantastic, but I couldn't get anybody to jump. And then I met a gentleman by the name of Jay Bailey. So shout out to you, Jay. And Jay introduced me to Dr. Tim Jones at Best Academy. And I went over to Best Academy, which is a middle school and high school here in Atlanta on the west side. And he said, yeah, let's do it. Now, I was like, great, fantastic. I don't really have any mentors for you, but at least I have the school. And then coincidentally, maybe several months later, when I was trying to figure out how to get these schools, I was coaching youth basketball. Just my own time, coaching my kids' teams in the church league. And one of the fathers of the kids is a businessman here in Atlanta named Alan Young. And he liked the way, and this is a true story, he liked the way I talked to the kids at halftime and at the end of the games. I talked to them like they're adults. I talked to them like, I described how life emulates basketball and sport. And so he invited me to his offices to see his offices. And I said, why not? And I elevator pitched him on CorporateKid. And then 20 seconds later, literally, he said, I'm in. Alan Young took 5 kids, made a phone call, got Cat Cole, made a phone call, got 3 or 4 other businesses, including Payscape and Advisors, which is headed up by Mr. Wing, Jeremy Wing, and got CTS Tax Accountants and Advisors, which is a worldwide tax organization. Yeah, so I went from no kids to
to 20
kids in like literally like in a few months.
And now you've added a second school, as I understand, or
yeah, I needed females, and this school only has boys, and I got Cat Cole. She wanted young ladies, so Dr. Tim Jones reached out to Mr. Marcus Stewart at Harper Archer, and next thing you know, I had young ladies, and we had our launch last August. It set out from that point. It has gone gangbusters since, just gangbusters. I can get more and more executives if at any time I want them. I just have to solidify this. So your next question was, where we go from here. Well, this Thursday, for instance, we're going to start our first major GoFundMe campaign.
All right.
We're looking to raise $40,000 so we can send our kids to San Francisco. They're going to be going to Lyft, which is the rideshare organization, and visiting those offices on what we call corping trips. And
corping, I like that. And that's another new word.
Rich, camping, yeah.
Rich,
yes.
get on the
right on that. Stop writing that down.
Exactly, yeah.
Corping.
My kids are here. They're watching you. That's why they're
exactly
here.
Right.
These are my lawyers. Corping. In that you hit it right on those. Corping's like camping. We're Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, all 3 of us. And I'm a Life Scout. I've done a lot of camping trips, and a corping trip is a camping trip for executive children.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the national park, you go to the corporate park. Instead of eating by the campfire, you're eating in a 4 or 5-star restaurant. Instead of sleeping in a tent, you're sleeping in a 5 or 5-diamond 5-star hotel. And instead of being guided around the park by a park ranger, the CEO of Lyft or the CEO of whatever company we're going to go guides you around their corporate campuses. This is about inclusion. It's about allowing the children to realize that they can be.
Well, I love this guy. Life Scout here too, where were you when we were in Boy Scouts or whatever? Because we had to suffer with the mosquitoes and all the other.
I was right there with you suffering. That's why we're doing it this way now.
Nice. Couple observations. One, just the people that you've named, just the stars aligning when you connect with those people and they feel your passion. I was thinking when you had that conversation with Neil of who's going to do, why don't you do this? It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It says, change is good, you first. Right.
That's right. Well, I don't know if you know Neil, but he's quite a persistent young man of 70 plus years old now, and he wears a funny little top hat. I don't know why it's funny, but it's a top hat. But Neil is quite an interesting portrayer of realism because he's the fellow that's responsible for some things we've all told stories out of. I believe Patch Adams and the other one, Doc Hollywood, are both things that came out of his concepts and ideas. And the fact that how do we represent ourselves to others and what stories we tell that are told again around the family, because as you said earlier, when you've got the children and when you've got the mother and a grandmother, and all the people around you thinking alike, then a whole lot better things or results from that. So.
Well, I just think it's interesting that also another observation that this book and that conversation that was a parable really paralleled your life, right?
Yeah, that's the whole idea of this comes from what could have been for me had I had a mentor. I've had a very interesting life and a very interesting career. I've had some successes. I've been the vice president of a company. I've run my own company. I had a .com in the 90s. So I've had all these things, but what I didn't have that person I could go to and say, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? I've had to figure out for myself, and it's been extremely difficult to figure this out for myself.
A lot of trial and error.
A lot of error. Some trials and trials, some success, and a lot of error. So, and had I had someone like these kids have, it would have been completely different and less painful. And I just cannot see these smart kids meet that pain. And one quick note, I was lucky. I got out of the hood. Okay, I left 99% of those people back in the hood. A lot of kids smarter than me never made it out. I wasn't the smartest kid that made it out. I mean, there were some smarter kids that did not do that. So the kids in this organization, most of these kids are not going to make it. And even the smartest ones are not going to make it. And it's up to us. It's up to us to make that difference. If we don't make that difference, who will?
Well, we all remember that little starfish story. You can't make a difference for every starfish in the sea, but you can make a difference for the one you're dealing with today. And that's really where mentorship comes along, and that's where people who need to raise their hands. And, we're here today because the Buckhead Business Association is thinking far enough ahead that we've got to continually educate and continue to participate. Rich, we just started that new program of public service. We've gotten three projects under our belt this year, so that's really been an interesting thing. And, of course, Brian wouldn't be here today if Bob Littell hadn't been endorsed by the Buckhead Business Association going on about 17 years ago. We previewed his first speech about net weaving, and then about same year or so, I got to know Bob Littell, and of course we've had 3 books now under his belt, and he's been talks literally all over the world about how you can be a little more serious about things other than just making an introduction. You need to shepherd that introduction. You need to make sure you know what happens. Let's go to a little bit of a break here and talking about the process. I know you've already seen a year of activity now, and you've seen some of the mentorships actually go the clock and be sort of winding down from the program. But talk about how some of these executives are keeping in touch with the kids, or how some of these kids are actually becoming beacons for others out in the marketplace and the community.
Well, going into the second year of this, we want to continue to propel these kids in the program all the way through high school. So I have to continually create new avenues for them each year. So we do not want them to lead the program at 16, and you still have plenty of time to lose them. So year 2, we've come up with CorporateKid Titans. This is new, and
hey,
leave that pen down over there, but this is good. You're gonna like this.
Note, yeah. I'm writing another note.
CorporateKid Titans is where these kids are the second year. We're gonna build a business, and they're gonna run it.
Cool.
So on the weekends, the first business is going to be cleaning business, and they're going to run this cleaning business. And then the mentors that they had the year before, they're going to report once a month for a business meeting to analyze how the business went. So we're keeping the mentors in the lives of the kids.
That's a Shark Tank Plus, huh?
It's a Shark. There you go.
Get that one, Rich.
I think the Shark Tank one might just be already copywritten, but we'll see. So this is going to keep these kids in the loop, and every year forward, they're going to have something that they can do in a growth period of this organization moving forward all the way through high school. And they're going to be in the lives of the executives the entire time. We want to build that bond, that relationship, so that when these kids decide to go to college or start their own business, because they don't, some of them are not going to go to college, they have what I didn't have and what a lot of kids don't have. They have that hookup. It's so important to have that person to say that one thing, just like my friend said to me that got me out of the drug business. That one thing that can get them to be a successful business person instead of a struggling entrepreneur.
Yes. Boy, I tell you what, successes are great. Now you've had 10 boys and 10 girls in your program so far. How many have finished the first year?
Well, the first year won't be finished for about 3 more months.
Okay.
We have more than 20, but we have right now actively we have 16. We just signed up Lyft, which is the rideshare program, as a new vendor.
Great.
So our not vendor, but our new mentor program lead. So that's a big deal for us. It's a national company. It's the second national organization that we have, and that's known. It's a known entity, and that's big for us. So we have another 15 kids in the chute ready to go. We just need businesses for them.
Okay.
So that's the next thing we're going to be doing in the next 4 or 5 months to get more businesses.
Well, we just had Lyft in the studio, I think, last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sam.
Sam Bond.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, general manager.
He
Good
sat
friend of
right,
mine.
He sat right in your chair.
Exactly.
Literally right in your
We should
chair.
have had you on the same show had we known or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could have launched that news that day, but we'll be doing a big press release with Sam. They're working on that right now as we speak, and that'll be coming out in the next week or two.
Well, since his offices are in Buckhead, I remember.
His offices are over on off of Howell Mill.
Well, we consider that Buck Edge.
Oh,
okay. So
Buck Edge.
Buck Edge.
And then they have another office in Cheshire Bridge, which
we don't count that. That's over by the fallen bridge.
Well, for Pro Business Channel, we're international.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. We're everywhere.
Live stream. So another question or observation is I went to your website. I was impressed with just what I saw and the big picture. What I didn't realize, which I picked up in this conversation, this is not what others have done is somewhat typical of spend a day in the life of, right? Or what does the day look like for someone? You're talking about over the course of a year that they're working as in that mentorship.
This is an Eagle Scout program, right?
There's a growth cycle to this, and the reason why we did it that way because I was that kid at West Philadelphia High School in Philadelphia where executives came down to the hood to get their street cred, to say, okay, I spent an hour, 2 hours with these kids, and then I disappeared to wherever. Now, for a kid, that doesn't work. For those who are out there doing that right now, please stop doing that. It doesn't work, and I'll tell you why. If you're a kid and this person comes down that you assume is rich, because that's in the hood. Anybody who comes down to the school, if you listen to the verbiage,
has time to do it, right?
Yeah, they're rich. Okay, well, they tell you how keep it moving and grind hard, grindstone, and blah blah blah, and then they disappear, and to the ether, and the kid doesn't know where they went, and it does not help. So what we did was we flipped it. Because it's really about access. It's about that kid having the confidence he can go into your environment and be successful, as opposed to you coming down to his environment. That doesn't work. It doesn't help. It helps you.
Right.
It doesn't help the kid. This gives these kids confidence to know that they can be accepted in your space.
What I like about this, you took a lot of ingredients that have been found in other entities and put them all in this mixing bowl and this recipe and created, I think, is something very unique. I was involved in FBLA and a couple of high school business organizations, right? So you kind of have that component. But in that component, it's more just on the campus and it's kind of theory or a presentation. And then you talk about the scouting program, but it's like big sisters as well. But a lot of kids can have those influencers from a big sisters or a scouting program or from a sports, they look at the heroes. But this is, somewhat unique in that obviously our middle name is Business, Pro Business Channel. And as entrepreneurs, the first, all the reality shows and all the dramas on all the comedy shows, but really the Shark Tank was one of the first where it was the average person could walk in with an opportunity to meet with those people and have something magical happen. And what you're talking about is on an ongoing basis dealing with a mentor. Talk to us a little bit. We've been singing your praises here for a while. So talk to us about some of your challenges. What are some roadblocks you hit when you're communicating with the schools, but especially those business leaders? Do they kind of hesitate and say, sounds like a big commitment? I'm a very busy person at C-level. What is their obligation or their commitment, expectation from both the participant, the student, the school, your partners, and the CEO?
Okay, so we've been lucky. The concept, which was a concept which is now actually happening, is real simple. And so it's very difficult for a business leader to say, I can't do this. We're not there to really impact their day. So it's more of a shadowing program. And during the day, there is one or two things that they will be doing with the kid that's in the kid's benefit. So it's hard to say no there. So I haven't had any real pushback from the businesses. I'm batting about 900 on businesses. The schools, there's zero pushback from the schools. In fact, they're all in. They've given me emissaries that I work with in the schools to furthest along. The kids are ready when I get to school to pick them up. The challenges are in logistics, and in money, because yes, the mentors, they pay to be in this. This is pay to play.
Okay.
So it's not like a mentor takes a kid and mentors a kid and does it for free. They have to write a check, and this is what keeps our mentors honest. You're putting money in something as a business person. You definitely want to get some ROI.
Yeah.
So so they make sure that their people connect with me and they tell me what days they have available for the kids because they paid for this. Yeah. And the reason for that is because you have people who volunteer in lieu of giving money because they don't have money.
Yeah.
And you have people who give money in lieu of volunteering because they don't have time.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't work. And if you look, volunteers volunteer for a while and stop, and people give money for a while and stop. I used to give money to an organization, a giant organization, United, and I will leave it at that. And come to find out, if you guys are my age and above, they were buying Olympic-sized swimming pools with that money, and so I stopped giving because I didn't see where my money was going.
Yeah.
But the reason this works is because they see where their money's going. It's coming right into their office once a month. Mm-hmm. It works. I've gotten no real pushback from these businesses. I'm really batting 1,000 with this so far, with the businesses and the schools as well. The challenges come with logistics. I got to pick these kids up and take them to the schools. I have a regular job.
You got some 15 passenger vans involved and a lot of scheduling. So,
yes.
As you look at how you're going to the second year, talk about some of the specific challenges, talk about some of the specific needs, and talk about how people out there listening today could begin to become involved. Let's make your life a little easier in year 3.
Okay.
If you're going to have a tough year 2, I think I already heard that part.
Yeah, the toughness on year 2 is just the growth. It's so percolating. It's so ready to grow. I have to catch up to it. I mean, I have to catch up. I have businesses that want to get involved now, but I just got to slow it down. Money. So that's why we're doing this GoFundMe campaign. And I know it's a podcast, so most people are going to probably hear this after the campaign is over.
Go ahead and tell us what the campaign is going to be named.
GoFundMe. It's a GoFundMe campaign. It's GoFundMe.com/CorporateKid.
CorporateKid.
And that starts Thursday. It's going to go for 3 weeks. We're looking to raise $40,000. Obviously, we like to raise $80,000. That money is going to go towards taking these kids out to California. Any additional monies will be for our next trip to Wall Street, to the financial district sector. And any additional monies will go to hopefully buying a vehicle, that van you're talking about.
You need another 15-passenger van, I'm sure.
To take these kids to where they want to go and hire somebody so we can function as a real unit as we bring on more schools. We have more schools that want to get involved.
I imagine in the interim, Lyft could pick them up, right?
Well, we talked about that. Steve Bond and I talked about that, but the problem is, picking up kids.
Yep.
There's the problem with that.
But I thought that too. But I'm a big proponent of Lyft. If you listen to last week's episode, I tell my whole Lyft story. But the thing is, what I've heard, I talked to Lyft drivers, is that parents now are doing that.
Yeah.
That are, which I think is kind of crazy, but the Lyft driver will pick up their kid and take them to class and so forth. But really, we talked about the GoFundMe and all your projects, but really, all that content and those updates can be found just really simple at CorporateKid.org.
That's correct.
Right? So how they can probably donate and volunteer, how they can be involved as far as the schools, as far as the mentors. Again, that's just CorporateKid.org.
Yes, and there are obviously a lot of links on that website. And for business owners who want to be involved, there's a frequently asked questions section that answers all your questions, and then there's an application that you can do online to fill out that I get directly, and we can set up a meeting and get you guys started out there. So we just needed the more business. We don't have no shortage of kids that need help.
Well, and I would bet you're available to talk to community organizations and other folks who want to bring your project into the school, but also, as you said, the business owners. There are different places. I imagine we can probably help you out with some speaking opportunities, get you in front of some Civitan clubs, Optimist clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Rotary clubs. Where have you been lately in telling your story?
Bring it on. I'm willing to speak at any time, anywhere, to anybody for any reason. The more that we get the word out, the better. Right now, I've been to a couple of events that you've had, Michael. But
we'll keep those coming, by the way.
But mainly, this GoFundMe campaign is so I can have more time freed up to do that, because I don't have time to speak right now because I'm busy shuttling kids left and right all over the city. So that's why this is important. But for any organization that would love for me to come out and speak, please just let me know. I will be there.
And what's your email?
My email is bthompson@corporatekid.org. B as in Brian, Thompson, all one word, corporatekid.org.
And that's again www.corporatekid.org. buckheadbusiness.org, and we've got a GoFundMe campaign. You can go out there and get to it. You can do all your research and do all those important things. Rich, what you got to wrap up here?
Well, just that's what I see as kind of your challenges is the bandwidth at this juncture, right? And I don't know if we have time. Two kind of last questions, if it's a fair question. Like back to the CEO involvement at C-level, is there a price range that you can kind of share? Is it a ballpark or something that you have to kind of?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
What is it?
It's not customized. The bringing the first child is $2,000. That's for the whole. That's for the whole year.
Okay.
Any additional children, $750.
Okay.
That money goes to obviously corporate trips. Goes to a lot of times. A lot of these kids don't have clothes. We've had kids who have one pair of pants they wear to school.
Yeah.
And that's it. Not 2 or 3, but 1. So if you go on the site, you'll see some photos of us taking kids
shopping
to Target and buying them clothes and so forth and so on.
There's another sponsor. Shout out to Target. Come on, it's first come, first serve, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. Just throwing plugs out there everywhere. We get the kids passports and things like that. So that money goes directly back into the company so that we can help more kids.
Yeah. It sponsors a kid, and it's directed exactly where it should be, and you're just... Again, the executive's taking a little bit of load off his staff, but he's putting it into a spot so you can use and learn the experiences. You can actually show the kids, so it's not magic. It actually takes work to get it done.
And the other part of that, so is it a monthly engagement, or how often, or is it based on a case by case basis? Or?
They come in once a month.
Okay.
And we're very flexible with that because we have executives who are high flyers. We have executives who are constantly in and out of the country.
Sure.
So we do not solidify the date months in advance because that just would not work. It would be counterproductive. So we have a liaison from the business and we have a liaison from the school.
Oh, nice.
And we coordinate, sometimes as little as a week in advance. Hey, such and such will be in town next week. Bring the kids out. The schools are all in. It's a day. It's not an absentee day. We have to pick them up at the school and drop them off back at the school so they don't miss a day of school. This is part of their curriculum.
That's what I was going to ask you. Answer that question, yeah. All right, so it looks like we are unfortunately out of time, over time.
We could be in a 1-hour show at this point, Rich, but I think we've got some, we've actually taken care of at least 2 more youth. Now they know what Dad does.
So I like this, from the young bucks to the younger bucks.
That's right.
Okay, I did have another question about internships. So does this evolve into like hiring opportunities or internship, or is that just organically potentially happen? Or
that's year 3, I think he's going
to.
Well,
see, they just go along with what Michael said. There's a lot more to this. We could be here for like 3 hours.
Right.
But if you think about it from the perspective of the employer or the CEO, this is an investment. It's like, we don't call it a charity. Yeah. You're investing for 2 reasons. One, you're investing because where are these kids going to be several years from now? What are they going to be doing several years from now? They could be out there, in your car taking your radio. I'm just being real honest. Yeah. So you're investing in keeping this kid in the right path. You're also investing, as we're learning now, these kids get out of high school, out of college.
They got to work somewhere.
They got to. You've groomed this kid,
right? Exactly. Yeah,
you've groomed this kid, and we know that's going to happen just from some of the kids that are in some of these businesses right now, and the connections they're making, and the relationships they're building. Yeah. So this is something that these businesses can use as their own talent research model, and some of these kids may have somewhere they can go directly out of high school or out of college.
The next generation.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess we are out of time now. Yeah, officially. Yeah, we'll see you next episode.
Very good.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here to share today's show and stay tuned for the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association.